It's coming. Welcome, everyone, to Two Guys in Hockey Talk, Season 7, Episode 18. Evan, I am here with you tonight as my wonderful co-host, showcasing the best and the latest and the greatest in all things hockey. But before we get started, because we got a jam-packed show, how are you tonight?
Hey, man, I'm. It's been a really busy week. Loving it, getting lots done, accomplishing lots. Been busy in the sports world. And I'm actually, pumped just to get another day in. I will say this to everyone. My back is really, really sore from carrying the weight for carrying Pawel this whole entire week.
This is true. You do carry me sometimes, and I clearly am just hogging down on the wagon on the back, tying you down to the ground. Where
okay, let's change that around. Your back sore from carrying me the last couple of weeks.
It's all good. I know when I'm not contributing to this thing. This is why, if you want to get involved with us, feel free to reach out. We'd love to partner with you.
That's right.
And we want to shout out our current sponsors right now. Of course, we love partnering with the Northern Michigan Warhounds, some great hockey. The Puckpedia group, Hart Levine, who's come on the show a few times before. Great guy, great interview. Penny Billionaires, you heard that great intro? Well, you can go check it out wherever you listen to music, Spotify or Apple Music or wherever you find it. Pro Hockey Group and Flow Hockey. If you want to watch all things beyond the NHL, some great junior hockey, go check out Flow Hockey. It is some great stuff. And JR Web Design. So if you want to get involved, make sure you reach out to us. We also got a website. Go check it out. We're regularly posting stories. And, of course, our former guests are always on there. And speaking of guests, Evan, we do have a guest coming on tonight, but we're not going to spoil the surprise right away because we want to get into some stuff around the NHL because it's been a busy couple of days. Lots is happening. And I wanted to first get your reactions on the Kiefer Sherwood trade for the San Jose Sharks. Now, for those of you that probably have already saw it, Sherwood, very high-valued prick, top 6 guy in Vancouver, of course, 30 years old, physical guy. Came over from Nashville to there, has 17 goals and 6 assists in 44 games. But in return, he goes over to the San Jose Sharks for a couple of draft picks and a prospect. I think 2 second-round picks and an undrafted college prospect. Your thoughts on the trade for the San Jose Shark and now for the Vancouver Canucks?
So, we talked about it on the show quite a bit over the last probably 2 months. About we knew Kiefer Sherwood was going out, and then we did talk about it, and we told it right here that very likely one of the top destinations is going to be the San Jose Sharks. What I'm surprised about Pawel is the amount that he brought back. I've had some so actually Lost Trucker and I were talking off air a little bit earlier today, and she was like, it made sense to me. I think that, they could be in the 2 spot. I don't think that Kiefer Sherwood is on a 2 line on a contending team that's making the playoffs. I think that Kiefer Sherwood is a 12 to 14 minute max player, but you play them in about a 12-minute role on the 3rd line. I think that that's perfect. I think it was an anomaly, the amount of goals. I don't think that they're going to perform in a 3rd line role in the same way. But this is what shocked me. That San Jose would give up what they gave up when they're still in that building stage. Now, what we discussed is, could this be, and I got news out to a couple different folks out there just trying to ask questions. Could there be, I feel like there's something they know they're signing Kiefer Sherwood, that there must be a signage somewhere. I can't get proof of it right now, but that's my suspicion because I can't see spending that kind of money and just on a trade deadline for a team that's not going to win no Stanley Cup. They do not got a defense yet.
surprising to see that they're all in that way. Now, I understand why Mike Greer did this. He's rewarding his players. He's showing that he believes in this group. I mean, they are doing well. And as of this recording, I believe the Sharks are in third in the Pacific. So they're really up there. Macklin Celebrity, we've talked ad nauseum with Max Miller. If you guys go back to episode 3, he was on the show chatting all things San Jose Sharks. But I'd love to get his thoughts on the trade. But it looks like, I mean, they have a lot of draft picks, but sometimes people say draft picks are magic beans, Evan. And so when you can get a depth player coming in, you can definitely boost your lineup. I don't think they're going to compete for a Stanley Cup, barring some bizarro world things happening. But I like this move for them. But I like this for Vancouver Canucks because they're really committed to the rebuild. And I know it sucks right now, but if you're looking at the pieces, you pick up as many assets as you can and you draft those assets. And you got to keep trading away players. And we talked about Elias Pettersson last time, but it looks like this is a good deal for the Vancouver Canucks because it included that defenseman Cole Clayton, who could be a depth prospect, not only for the NHL, but potentially even for their AHL, the Abbotsford Canucks, who have been struggling this year. Go ahead.
So I'm just going to put a teaser out there. So you heard Pawel say that draft picks are like magic beans. Well, our guest that will be on about 7:30 here will talk to you about scouting. We have someone that's going to be having a lot of history in the junior hockey and players that have been drafted that they put their name in there. Anyway, I'm not going to give it all away, guys, but make sure you're sticking around for 7:30 if you're catching this. If you're catching this and it's on a post, stick around. We have a guest coming on that we can talk about our draft picks, actually magic beans, how high, first round, second round. I've had my opinions on it. Pawel's thrown his belt into the ring and said, okay, this is where I see it. And some of you guys have done it too, so we're going to have a greater discussion around that. Can I just say the very thing that I have been talking about for 2 years also came down in another trade?
Yes. Let's get into it. So are you talking about the Vegas Golden Knights acquiring Rasmus Andersson finally?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Like, come on, guys. If you were watching our show last year at the trade deadline, he wanted to go to Vegas. He said he wanted to go to Vegas. There was only 2 teams waving. The other one he wasn't sure of. It was the one team he's always said yes. They couldn't make it happen. And we said early on in the season, this could be an off season. No, he couldn't make it happen. They had too much salary. Now they can make it happen. And it happened. Rasmus Andersson. And he will be there next year. He will be there next year, guys. So we called it. I'm just saying it because a lot of people were like, well, that's just rumors. It wasn't rumors. It was out there.
100%. And if you go back, I think it's a couple of years ago, who also did the Vegas Golden Knights trade for with Calgary Flames? Noah Hannafin. Exactly. So he's very familiar with that player. He's played with him on a line before. And how many days was it before he signed an extension, Noah Hannafin, with the Vegas Golden Knights after that trade? It was 35 days. So it goes to show you that
pretty good. You know the numbers.
It's good to know that this is a possibility that this will probably get done. But here's the other thing, and it goes back to also the Quinn Hughes deal that we talked about a few months ago. The player looked at it as like Vegas believed in him, in Anderson, and they didn't care if there's an extension done. Now, there still may one be, as Evan has just alluded to. However, Vegas believed in the player right now because it sounds like Boston really wanted to trade for him and had a 7-year, $9 million contract ready for him. But it was only going to happen if the trade, if he would sign the extension, and he was not interested at this time to doing that. He was considering determining his future in the offseason to see what would happen. So it goes to show you that if a GM believes in a player will give a chance to that organization and GM and go play there, right? And now Vegas, although they're missing Pietrangelo, they're another deep team and ready for another deep run in the postseason.
Wow. Yeah, I'm actually, you know what? I'm always amazed at the deals that Vegas can make. Kelly McCrimmon, man, he is the most shrewd, the most cunning, the most suspicious. He is a story. They need to make a movie of the Vegas Golden Knights from day one right through to today. Everything that happened, you can question it. If you're a Vegas Golden Knights fan, you know what? Let's just say, oh man, Okay, Zill writes, Vegas throws their hat in the ring for EP40. That's Elias Pettersson in Vancouver after season end. They'll have the cap. EP40 doesn't move till then. They'll have the cap. How will Vegas have the cap? I'm confused how you that I'm interested in. I'll have to look at that.
11.6 million, and unless Vancouver retains, it'll be interesting. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of rumblings around Elias Pettersson. We talked about it last week. So if you guys missed that episode, go check it out on our YouTube and or Facebook page. Go ahead.
Elias will be gone. Elias will be gone in the summer, or by this summer, or early in the season. That's my prediction. And I have that's just.
I mean, he does have a no movement clause, so it'll be interesting if
he wants out of there. He wants out of there.
Oh, you think so? Okay.
Yeah, well, that's some of the stuff that we're kind of hearing out of the area.
Okay. Well, I haven't heard much about that. I've heard like it's mixed, so it depends on who you talk to. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. We'll keep our. I'm
going with the same source that told me all about Demko back in the day, so I'm going to trust them. So far, they were right and on Kiefer. So.
No, that's fair. That's fair. And I wanted to talk about some other players who I don't think are going to move. Have moved to a new thing, but it hasn't really worked out. And we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, and that is Linus Ullmark. He sat down with a one-on-one, had a bit of a conversation about the rumors swirling his family, his playing, and everything that's kind of happened. And it goes to show you that these guys deal with a lot. Mental health is a priority, and it's been hard for him. And it's one thing to criticize a player's play, but when you play in a hot Canadian market like Ottawa and there's expectation to win and you're struggling, there's a lot that comes with that. And so we don't condone what was said online, and that tweet was deleted quickly after it was posted, but it created a flurry of storms, not only for the players, but also their families, and it made a big impact. So the fact that Linus had to come forward because he's dealing with his mental health, and we've seen this with a lot of players. We look back at Spencer Knight, who's now in Chicago, and what he had to deal with when he was in Florida, right? We look at some other players who had to take time away from the game just to recuperate and get themselves back to their baseline. So I'm glad to see it. You guys can go check out the interview. It's really good. It's about 26 minutes long. And the one thing I will say is that kudos to Victor Hedman, who reached out to Linus Ullmark and just kind of supported him, right? It's another level to him. But it goes to show you that it's not easy. The game is a great thing, but there's more things beyond the game. Go ahead.
I just want to say this because there's a lot of you out there, when you hear different stuff that is being said about players and stuff, and I hear this often, hockey culture has to change. Can I just mention, hockey culture isn't just the bad stuff that you see in sports, but hockey culture is what you just saw with what Pawel is talking about. It's where someone like Victor Hedman from an opposing team in the Eastern Conference as well, that could be going up against, a fellow Swede, but the point is he reached out around his mental health and stuff like that. And there was a lot of players. I remember when Robin Leonard was going through his stuff, players were reaching out to him and connecting with him. And so that is hockey culture. Just don't grab the bad stuff. There is a lot of stuff that is wrong in sport, but there's a lot of stuff wrong in your organization, my organization. There's a lot of things that we need to fix, and there's a lot of bad people also in every organization that's large like these groups. But there's a lot of good stuff, and hockey has some good culture too. So let's give that highlight, okay?
100%. And speaking of a Florida team, the Panthers faced off versus the San Jose Sharks a couple days ago. And I don't know if you watched it, Evan. I got a chance to watch the game. I know you've been following the Sharks.
I watched it.
The game was electric, and we had a goalie fight. So there was a bit of a scrum in the San Jose zone. And, of course, Nedeljkovic, who was the goalie there at the time, he's kind of, figuring things or kind of getting into it. And so Bobrovsky skates over and gets into it. So we see ourselves a good old-fashioned classic, but very rare goalie fight. Your thoughts on it and just the energy it brought to the building, because you could see some of the shots of the bench, and the Sharks bench loved it. I'm sure the Florida did too, but they showed more of the highlights because it was the San Jose feed that I was watching, but it looked excellent. The comments post-game were phenomenal from some of the players, including former Edmonton Oiler Vinny Desharnais, talking about how they wanted to make Ryan Reeves proud. Really phenomenal, but it was wild. And it looks like Zylstra's not a fan of fighting culture.
No, remember, we know that.
Yes. Oh, I know, but yeah. So your thoughts on that game, on the win, of course, because that's impressive to win 4-1 versus the defending Stanley Cup champions, and just the overall thoughts on the game.
It was funny because a lot of Americans have said, you know what, you need to get fighting out of the game. Get fighting out of the game. What ignited the crowd in San Jose? Fighting. I mean, that was like they like it in the South. They like it in those places. Now, what we don't like is stage fighting. When somebody gets upset at each other and something goes at it. Bobrovsky coming, and by the way, I am shocked that he didn't get more of a penalty because when you leave your side of the arena and come all the way down, you're not across that line. Yeah. There was no repercussions unless I missed something. You guys want to correct me on this, but there should have been more repercussions for Bobrovsky going over the center line. Because if you guys go back to the Battle of Alberta between Cam Talbot and Mike Smith, Mike Smith ran to the center waiting for him because of the passes. I don't even remember the things on it. So, but Nedeljkovic, what the heck are you going out there? The guy never touched you. Maybe there was something else in the game I missed with it. You guys can update that. But anyway, I love the fact that Bobrovsky came down. Now he's slipping and sliding, and they said, "Oh, and Nedeljkovic," or I'm saying his name wrong.
Nedeljkovic.
Nedeljkovic. He's like swinging the gloves. He was putting us like on his face. Like, come on. Like, that wasn't even a punch. You can't punch with those things very well. Unless you're taking it like a batter's arm and using your backhand. You can't, like a glove. That glove doesn't do nothing. They push each other in the face worse. Like, goalies can't really do nothing if they're just using those gloves on them. Unless there's like taking the blocker and driving it into you. So that wasn't much of a goalie fight. But I thought it was more of a roughing is what I kind of looked at it as. But I actually found it fun. I know Lost Trucker's got her own thing that she thinks, but that was fun for me, man. I loved it.
100%. And it was announced today also that Jackson Lacombe, the defenseman who signed that big deal with the Anaheim Ducks, is going to be replacing Seth Jones at the men's Team USA Olympics. It sounds like Seth Jones's injury is more long-term, and he probably wants to heal up in order for a deep playoff run for the Florida Panthers. However, great honor for Jackson Lacombe, young defenseman. If you watch this guy, he's a stud. He's had a great underlying numbers. He's a great skater. Evans mentioned him before in his draft picks, Revs Top 15. If you've watched, go ahead, Evan.
Why would we take Jackson Lacombe when you got Lane Hudson sitting there in Montreal?
Better yet, why would you take him if you can't take Adam Fox?
Well, Adam Fox, I thought, was injured though, and
no, he's not injured. He was, but he can be.
They were worried about injuries. That was their biggest thing. They didn't
possibly, but he can still play.
But I would take Lane Hudson over Adam Fox even right now with the way that Adam Fox is playing. And I mean,
I don't know if you saw the phantom call with Lane Hudson versus the Minnesota Wild, and how one of the Minnesota Wild players wiped out, and he got called for a tripping, even though he didn't even touch him at all. And the ref had to skate over and apologize. I mean, at a certain point, do we really need 4 refs? This isn't a rant, but I wonder, like, should we maybe potentially just, I think Robert DeMore had this idea once, have 2 refs on the ice and then the 2 linesmen in a box, and they can monitor the play and watch from the screen like everyone else, and then make calls to the refs on a headphone or something. I don't know. It just seems like it's a little bit not cool. And it could have impacted the game. It didn't. I mean, Montreal was able to win that game, but it goes to show you that sometimes these calls that are happening, and I saw some yesterday between the New Jersey Devils and the Edmonton Oilers with some missed icings. I think it comes down to where you really need to be on the ball, right? Like, if you're making these mistakes, they impact the game, and players need to, like, you play to the whistle, but you sometimes know the rules of the game. You can't change the rules of the game arbitrarily. So it'll be interesting to see. There's a lot more happening. And one other thing to mention before we jump quickly into Around the Rink, Valery Nichushkin, he was sidelined for a bit due to a random car accident that he was in. Jared Bednar indicated that he should be coming back in the next couple of days here, but it was a minor kind of incident. But, you know, it's scary to hear, especially given what Nichushkin has gone over the last little bit. So we wish him all the best, and we hope he's good to go and back to it, because Colorado has been doing very well overall. They had a little bit of a slump in the last few weeks, but I mean, they're still a powerhouse, and they're probably the team to beat out in the West. So that's pretty much it before we get into Around the Rink. Alrighty, great to have you guys back. So there's been a little bit of news from around the rink because there's been a lot going on. So I wanted to kind of jump into it. And the first thing is there is a new CBA in the AHL. So we know that this is the development league for the NHL. And if people ever wonder, well, why doesn't the NHL do this? Why don't they implement a different point system, for example? Well, they would first test it out in the AHL before they moved it over. But it sounds like they've ratified a new 5-year CBA agreement going until 2030. So that's good for them and the players because the league has been strong, benefiting. We know we had that. What was it? Was it the Charlotte Checkers or Charlotte? One of the Carolina affiliates that wanted to break away and be its own affiliate and not have a thing. That was a whole thing. But generally, all the teams are doing well. They're developing their.
The independent. That was Chicago.
Chicago, I apologize. Was it the Wolves? Chicago Wolves. I apologize.
You got the C right. You got the C right, dude.
Yeah. So it's good for the league to have that thing. Any thoughts on the AHL signing there or no?
No, I heard that. I mean, that was going to be a quick and an easy, smooth piece. They seem to always been done pretty well with that. It's the ECHL that was the big deal to be able to get. They feel pretty happy with what happened and the changes and. So I think I expected that it would go fairly smooth and fairly well. So good on them. You know what? These guys just still deserve to make a decent living.
That's true. And Quinn Hughes is closing in on D point leader. So he'll be batting McCarr by the end of the season. 100%. He'll probably be in the Norris conversation again, along with McCarr and dare I say Bouchard for Edmonton. It'll be interesting to see, or Werenski for Columbus. So we'll see what happens there. And speaking of AHL, Yanni Nyman was named the AHL Player of the Week after scoring 6 goals and 1 assist in 4 games. So very impressive. He was a second-round pick for the Seattle Kraken. He has played in the NHL. Last season, he made his debut and scored a goal versus the Montreal Canadiens, and that's where he earned his first star of the NHL. But he's been playing well, and he's regarded as one of Kraken's top offensive prospects. So if the Kraken do decide to move on from one of their veterans like an Eberle, like a McCann, who's been out in the news, I could see them potentially bringing him up and potentially giving him a shot, if not at the end of this season, then potentially next season, right? Coming into your top 9. So a lot of decisions to make in Seattle because I got to be honest, Evan, they're kind of in the middle of the pack. They're like up and down this season. And I wonder what is the direction that Seattle has. Like we know what Vegas is, but what is Seattle? What is their identity, right? And you definitely now you're hearing rumors about Shane Wright, and what does that mean? Would he be a trade piece to bring in a top 6 swinger when you?
I haven't. I've thought about it, but I haven't actually heard anything on Shane.
I've heard some rumblings out of the Seattle market and some of the chat zones online. So it'll be interesting to see if that's something that would take place. Again, it's all magic beans until something actually happens and grows.
A lot of magic beans going around tonight.
A lot of them. And a few other things that I just wanted to get into. Let me just see here for my notes. There was a big trade in the PWHL with Ottawa and Vancouver. So just to make sure I get everybody's name right. So the Vancouver Golden Knights traded with Ottawa Charge. Ottawa Charge acquired Mikala Cava and Brooke McQueen. I apologize if I'm mispronouncing it, and defenseman Emma Greco. So that adds some depth and experience to their lineup. But of course, both Vancouver teams are kind of developing because they're looking for a little bit younger to get younger. And so they got McMahon, Anna Mexier, and Anna Shokhina. I apologize. You guys got to come on the show and really let us know how to pronounce names. Because
hey, can I just say this? As you're naming all these people, and then of course you said, "Oh, they got a lot of depth and they got a lot of experience," and I'm like, we don't even know who the heck these guys are.
We're trying to expand the PWHL market, but That's pretty much it. And we just found out word that Gerard Gallant is stepping away as head coach due to some health concerns with the Shanghai Dragons. So we'll be monitoring that. We wish Gerard Gallant all the best, former NHL head coach. But that's pretty much it for Around the Rink. All right, Evan, our guest has arrived. So go ahead.
Why don't I go ahead, guys? Before we get ready here, I just want to introduce you, and then we'll go into our guest headliner. Our guest today is someone well-known in junior hockey world, player development circles. So Bob Duro has played a key role in the hockey showcases, league development. He's run the Prospects a hockey tournament, 95 to 2010. It's a major showcase event for a lot of elite players. He also served as commissioner of the United States Premier Hockey Leagues, one of the largest junior hockey organizations in North America. A lot of teams, and I've been confused about that league, so maybe some questions. He's now moved on to pursue other things, and we have a bunch of questions for him. So, guys, Bob Duro is our guest headliner. Guest headliner, brought to you by JR Web Design. Is your website stuck in the Stone Age? Well, you need JR Web Designs. They'll craft you a website that's as awesome as our show. Welcome.
Welcome, Bob.
Guys, thanks for having me.
We appreciate you taking the time. I don't know what Evan promised you, but we hope we can over-deliver.
He said, I'll enjoy the ride.
I told him, I said, I said, we got some questions. You want them ahead of time? And he's like, no, you can just shoot them 2 minutes ago. And I go, well, we'll enjoy the ride definitely through. And I was teasing him too. I said, hey, man, we can make Perry Pern look exciting. And Perry, if you are listening, excuse that. I know you're fun, man.
Well, welcome to the show, Bob. We appreciate you taking the time, and we want to get started right away. So what kind of originally motivated you to start the Prospects Hockey Tournament, and how did it grow into what it has become today?
So it's over today. It ran from 95 to 2010. There were, 10,000 kids that went on to play either Division I or in the CHL. I'm not saying they played because of that event, but it spoke to the level of play that was at the event. And what started it was I was scouting for the Sioux Greyhounds at the time in the Ontario Hockey League, and this thing called summer hockey started. You know, back in the day, I mean, you hung your skates up when April rolled around and you played baseball or golf or soccer or whatever. And, you know, when you're a scout, you go where hockey players are. And there was some tournaments that had some players and they weren't very well run. And I said, man, I could do this better than that. And before you know it, I mean, the U.S. National Development Team is there and Joe Thornton's there and 8 other first overall NHL draft picks are there. And it was a fun ride, which kind of led me into being hired by Gino Gasparini and the USPHL to head up their first central scouting agency in 2005 and start what is their combines today. And then that led later on to being the commissioner of the USPHL. So I've had fun riding hockey at every level. And yeah, it's been great.
So let's slightly move a little bit. What moved you into league leadership and eventually becoming commissioner of the United States Premier Hockey League?
COVID did a lot of funny things, guys. I was playing golf one day in Toronto. I live in Florida. Well, I kind of live in Kitchener, Ontario, and Tampa, Florida. And I got a phone call from an old customer who was in Prospects, a BC grad. And he said, listen, our commissioner is going to step aside. He's been here since the beginning. Would you be interested in something like that? And, you know, the way these things work out, you start talking, you start, you know, putting ideas back and forth. And before you knew it, I was in Hartford, Connecticut and off to the races. It is, I heard the intro, it is the largest junior hockey league in America. It's coast to coast, sea to sea, border to border. It's big. It's tier 2. In Canada, you would call it tier 2 junior A, junior B, junior C, junior D.
So it has multiple tier levels.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. When I came into the league started out with 5 owners from the Eastern Junior Hockey League, so the New England area, who amongst those 5 teams had 50 Division I commitments every year. and they weren't happy in the league. That league was equal at the time, pretty much to the USHL and to the North American Hockey League. And they really never lost players to the USHL, and they were unhappy with the league that they were in, and they started their own league. And before you know it, like 8 years later, it was the largest junior hockey league in America. And then I took it over in 2020.
I was just going to say, so a couple of years ago, I think he wrapped up. So Lucas Willett, he played for the Utah Outliers. I actually went to school with his dad, and we had him all set up to come on to his show. And then all of a sudden he started playing really well. So he had no time. He had all these other interviews to deal with. Yeah.
Crazy league in the like great league. I love my time there. Players came from all over the place. They came from Canada. They came from unique places in America. A lot of Europeans. It was like any other junior hockey league. Good experience.
That's amazing. And there was recently in the USPHL a incentive program that you guys had in play. Can you kind of share your thoughts on what it was and explain to hockey fans what the program entailed and why it kind of mattered for your
I'll just check that for everyone, for Bob. So actually, because we had in our piece, so there's something new, Bob, of course, that's out there that they're trying. This had nothing to do with you, I know. And
so I left in 2024.
Yeah.
And this just was kind of, the hockey world's been kind of upset here with or changed with the NCAA rule making CHL players eligible, right? And we're all watching the dust particles settle. And, it's pretty competitive at that level to recruit hockey players. And so this is something that is a unique idea. It's never been tried before. I don't know if it'll work. I like new unique ideas. Two things concern me. Number one, at the D3 level, I'm not sure that players can be paid. Like, I'm not sure CHL players, for example, who were always considered pros, can play at the D3 level. I've heard some rumors that they might be able to. So that's a concern. The other concern is there are European or let's call them international players, Canadian players, European players that are playing in the USP on visas that are not work visas. And if they're getting paid now, so I'm not saying that these are going to be obstacles. Maybe they're nothing, but I've had owners call me up and say this could be a problem. But the idea itself is a unique idea. I don't know if you guys watched the college championship game on Monday night, but there was a clip that came out with Carson Beck from Miami, and they asked how he was doing with his studies, and he said, well, I haven't been in school for 2 years. I mean, so like it's the Wild West right now. Like, did you ever think that you would see a whole bunch of players from the CHL end up going to the NCAA? Like, that was just not the norm. So like it's the Wild West, and this just another one of those ideas.
Maybe just update everybody what this incentive is and what's been thrown out there, because not many people probably know about it.
Yeah. So the way I understand it is there's a team incentive and there's a personnel incentive where from a personal standpoint, if you are named one of the players of the week, forward, defenseman, or goaltender, you get $500 that week. I think that's how I read it. Right, $500. And the teams play for a pool of money that's awarded to the championship team at the end, and lesser amounts to some of the teams, I think, that make the finals and the semifinals. So it's different.
And we have a question from the audience asking Zylstra, how many players go on to be NCAA Division I players?
Or at least in the past.
So when, like I said, when they started in 2010, they would have had 40 to 70 players. And that has kind of gone down over time because the USHL got so strong from 2005 to 10 and then carrying on. The BCHL, I mean, their strength got much greater. And the North American League started expanding all over the place. So right now, that league would be a Division III feeder. Now, having said that, kind of just to go all the way. The BCHL, for example, that would have had, I don't know the exact numbers, say 115 Division I commitments. Their numbers are going to be slashed in half too. The North American League that had 100 commitments, they're going to be down to 30 because not all the commitments. I talked to when the rule was changed. I know I'm trying to make this a long-winded answer, but when the rule was changed, I talked to 17 Division I NCAA coaches that I knew from my prospects days. I said, what percentage of players are going to play Division I from the CHL? And they all said 50%. Well, if you have 500 freshmen coming in, that's 250 players. Wow. I mean, the USHL is still a great league. They're still going to have 200. Okay. Wow. And that leaves 50 for leagues like the BCHL or the Alberta Junior League that used to be good before it kind of got swallowed up a little bit, and the North American League. So everybody's kind of adjusting. And just to kind of bring it full circle, the USPHL that would have in its early days a lot of commitments, now they're nothing. They're D3. Yeah. And everybody's adjusting that way.
Yeah. So during your time running these major tournaments and leading these junior leagues, have you seen player development kind of evolve over this time? How do players showcase themselves in order to have that opportunity to play at the highest level possible, to get noticed, potentially to be drafted?
So when I started prospects in 1995, I mentioned that summer hockey really wasn't a thing. And quite frankly, I didn't like it. I didn't think kids needed it. I think they should have been doing something else. But kind of I looked at it and said, listen, the parents are going to do this and they're spending the money at these really bad tournaments and having really bad experiences. With games, teams were like dispersed, where games were 15-1 and 10-0. Yeah. I'll give them something great to play. And it turned out to be a great event. And, what's happened since then is there's a lot of really good spring and summer tournaments. I'm still not that big of a fan on spring and summer, quite frankly, even though I made a ton of money and had a ton of fun, okay, running this. The truth of the matter is a little bit of time off probably it would be a good thing. Now, the problem is, though, when I first started Prospects, Hockey Canada, they weren't involved in summer hockey. Now they're involved in summer hockey nonstop. Yeah. So it's not going to stop. I mean, here's the thing about getting drafted or getting recruited. You just can't take a night off. It's that simple. You just never know when somebody's going to be in the building. Right. You never know when somebody's going to be at practice. Okay? I know when I was studying and taking care of studying for the Sioux Greyhounds in the Ontario Hockey League, and I was talking to coaches, the number one question I had is, tell me who your three hardest workers are. I don't care what age. They knew I was there to watch certain players, but tell me who your hardest workers were. Because we always had a rule in the Sioux that we had to find one free agent a year. And if we could do that over the course of 4 years, that gave us 4 assets that we could possibly trade, develop into something bigger. So find the guy who's working the hardest, who has to compete. And that's what we'd be looking for.
That's wild. Got a whole bunch of questions about that. Let's go a little bit further into this landscape. I followed a bunch of this stuff. So about a year ago, so when the whole landscape, we've done had a lot of connections, especially in the West, just being based out of Alberta, of course, and the connections and relationships you build. So the Vancouver Island, one of my best friends actually owns the Campbell River Storm now. But Lou Gravel, who was over there, has been involved, of course, in USL and some scouting and different stuff. So we had a discussion, and some of that stuff came around what was happening in the BCHL, because some of the VIJHL guys were being called up to the BCHL. So this was interesting. I had stuff sent out. I sent it to Jeff Merrick, didn't get response back. Elliot Friedman, even though he's not junior. And so he actually was stuff, and it was around Hockey Canada. So I'm just going to give you a little backdrop because you're familiar with what we would have talked about. And so I'm asking all these places. I sent to Hockey Canada, everyone. No one's answering. Up to that point, so last season, the Vancouver Island Junior Hockey League was told, anybody you're going to let go, remember, the end of the month, you need to let these players go so they're freed up because they're not sanctioned to play for Hockey Canada. Right. So let them go. But then the rule of thumb was you had to have them signed. What was it? Sometime at the end of August or September. I can't remember the timeline. Now, and I got a letter sent to me specifically. And of course, there's this thing going on from Hockey Canada with the non-sanctioned, the BCHL, and I've had people talk about the rogue leagues, Bob. Well, I think they forget that, Bill Hunter, they were a rogue league in the major junior and with the whole thing out of Edmonton. And that's how they began. So BCHL has got this work. And now they steal players all the way through last year in the CHL, all the way through to, what was it, February? And then I saw the movements. Now, of course, now other players, there's always replacements, and I get that. Some players who are in the major juniors in the CHL are now losing their positions because someone gets backed out. And then we saw the NCAA movement. And now we see a lot of players now leaving the CHL. And I can't remember, you probably would because you've been following this closely. Now we got some CHL guys saying, you are stealing players away from us. And they're complaining, but they're doing the same thing. It's like all chaos. And they're also taking them from the USHL, the WHL. So anyway, tell me about this landscape, what you see, where do you see this going? Give us your interpretation of this. Sorry, that was long-winded. I have a bit of rant around that. It bugs me a little bit.
First of all, before I tell you where I think it's all going, I'm going to say I really feel for the BCHL. The BCHL, like all other Tier 2 leagues, but they were the best of all Tier 2 leagues in Canada. They were really restricted by the Hockey Canada model, which only allowed them so many young players, and there were so many restrictions. And it really was to send kids to the CHL, okay, and keep them away from the NCAA. So they left Hockey Canada, and to me, it was the right move. When I was really, really deep into it, I had meetings with John Grisdale, who was the commissioner of, and we were talking about forming a super league in North America. And so the BCHL goes out and they make the move, and then the rule changes with the NCAA. And I feel for them, okay? Because in my mind, they did the right thing. I believe that they would have passed the USHL slightly, but now it's all a moot point. So where do I think it's all heading? I think there's 202 players in the CHL right now that are scheduled to leave their junior teams early and go play Division I hockey. That is crazy. Like it's hard to prepare for who your team's going to be. I don't know who's heading up scouting for Medicine Hat, but take a look at the players they lost to the NCAA last year and take a look at what they're doing right now, okay? But it's really hard to replace those players. I said something before that probably 50 to 60% of the players in Division I are going to come from the CHL. And really what I see is this. I see the NHL draft. I see all the best 15, 16, and 17-year-olds, for the most part, going to the CHL. Okay, the NHL draft's going to be, for the most part, done out of the CHL draft, with the exceptions of players like McKenna who go there early, right, or are a late birth. So it's going to be drafted out of there. And then the real question is, what are these kids going to do, these elite kids? What are they going to do at 18 and 19? Are they going to stay in the CHL, or are they going to go to the NCAA? And right now it looks like a whole bunch of them are going to the NCAA. And if you take a look, I don't know if you can throw it up on your screen or whatever, we have a tracker right now. If you take a look at the 2005 NHL draft, there's two things that really stick out. Number one, there's more kids on track to go to pro hockey from the NCAA than there is the CHL right now. That's number one. That is historic. That has never happened before, okay? The second thing is the NCAA hasn't even started recruiting for a big part the 2005 draft or NHL draft. They're going to take a whole whack more of those 07s, okay? And it's going to get wider. And, you know, there's a term that we've been using with a little podcast that I do, Hockey 101, where if it becomes the new norm to leave the CHL early, whether it be for nil money, whether it be for it's better hockey. It's older, it's bigger, it's stronger, it's faster. There's as many pros in it. There's as many NHL draft choices in it. If that becomes the new norm, then the CHL becomes kind of a super midget league where they get all the best 16 and 17-year-olds, but they kind of start peeling away at 18 and 19.
So you have this on your site in your Hockey 101. 192 CHL players with junior eligibility are scheduled to leave the CHL for the NCAA in the 26-27 season.
It's 202 right now, and kind of what we're doing is we're going through each team, kind of releasing about 5 CHL teams a week, and showing what they're scheduled to lose. Like we did 2 teams last week. You've probably heard of them before, the Kitchener Rangers and the London Knights. They're 2 of the premier teams in the CHL. And combined, they're going to lose 11 players that they were counting on to build their team around next year.
Wow.
Okay? So if that becomes the new norm, where the players and the agents, and you know what, the NHL teams say, you know what, it's going to be better for your development if you end up in the NCAA when you're 18 or 19 years old, then that's a problem for the CHL, right? Now, the CHL is winning on other standards. If you that tracker that we have, if you take a look at the number of Americans that the CHL had last year, and then they more than doubled it this year. Americans are coming to the CHL in droves. Take a look at what Kamloops got this year with JP Hurbutt, right? Yeah. The leading scorer in the national development team, who plays in the USHL, leaves and comes to the WHL. So where's it all going? I think it's all going 16, 17-year-olds are going to be in the CHL, and the fight's going to be for 18 and 19-year-olds with the NCAA. That's the fight. And unfortunately, there's just not going to be enough players to go around for the BCHL. The AJ is kind of decimated right now, or the North American League, like to have D1 players, and they're going to be D3 or U Sport providers. Sorry for the long-windedness, but it's
this is good. Yeah, it's been very informative and insightful. So we're getting some questions, and I'm sure we'll have to follow up. But Zilstra is asking kind of, so what about rule of NCAA allowing to be free agents if they stay in the NCAA for full 4 years? Would the NHL change that rule? Does the NHL have any influence here, or what does that look like?
Well, so the NCAA or the NHL has a new collective bargaining agreement, and it used to be under the old agreement, and I'm no expert on the bargaining agreement, but under the old agreement, if you were in the CHL and you were drafted, they had 2 years to sign you, or you became a free agent. If you were playing in the NCAA, you had 4 years, and then you became a free agent. Now my understanding is the NHL has 4 years to sign a player once they draft them. Okay? So if you go to that tracker that I have, usually you would see, like for the 24 NHL draft, you would see people sign entry-level contracts right away. In the 25 draft,
where do people find the tracker, Bob?
If you go to that link that I sent you, in the email, it's got so much data in there, like it's as good as it gets, and it's updated. But if you take a look at the 25 draft, there's very few players who signed ELCs, and that's very dangerous for the CHL, because once you sign an ELC right now, you are NCAA ineligible. So there's a whack of them that have not signed, and if you're a CHL team, you're biting your nails wondering if those kids are heading to the NCAA. Here's the other thing as far as collective bargaining agreement. Again, I'm no expert on it, but for years and years and years, the National Hockey League has wanted to take their best 19-year-olds in the CHL and put them in the American Hockey League, and they haven't been able to do that, right, per the agreement with the CHL and the collective bargaining agreement. My understanding is they're going to be able to put kids in the CHL, so it's not or in the AHL. So it's not just the NCAA that's going to be picking away at the CHL. It's going to be the NHL sending them to AHL teams. Perfect example would be a kid who was drafted in the first round, but he's physically not ready to play in the NHL, but he's dominated in the CHL, and he's 19 years old. Why does he have to go back and play another year against kids who are his little brother's age, right? Okay, that he's been playing road hockey with. I mean, how is that going to develop him? And so now there's going to be two options. The NHL team can send him to the AHL, or they can say, hey, why don't you kick yourself into the NCAA and play there?
Mm-hmm. Wow. That's so let's just kind of slightly on that move. I just want to go back. So let's go back to the prospects tournament that you were doing there. Now, I believe it was something around 9. So you had people play in that league just to show the eliteness of the players. Name some of the players that people might be familiar with that actually were drafted very high.
Everybody. I mean, but like it started the very first year. It was Joe Thornton. Like there was 9 first overalls. Let me see if I can remember them. Thornton. I think this is in order. Thornton, Rick DiPietro, Rick Nash, Sidney Crosby, Eric Johnson, Patrick Kane, Steven Stamkos, John Tavares. I'm missing somebody. Taylor Hall. And I don't want to say they got drafted into the NHL because of the tournament, because that's not true.
No, but we were talking about to show the eliteness of the type of players that were going.
It was the eliteness of it. Yeah, it was like there was a rule that I had. Like if you were in the Ontario Hockey League, there was an OHL draft list, and I said if you were going to enter a team in the tournament, you had to have at least 13 kids on the draft list. Okay. And some teams would come with absolute wagons, and others would come with kids that were, later round picks, but I wanted to see them as a scout. And so, like, basically the entire Ontario Hockey League draft list was there, plus a whack of kids from the States. Like, in year 3, the U.S. national team came, the development program. I mean, it was fun. It was a lot of fun.
So you've done a bunch of scouting, and one of the things. So we always like to ask this questions when it comes to when scouts are talking around analytics, right? When fans are talking about analytics, some people that are we'll joke about and call them geeks of hockey, and there's a lot of stuff. People pay attention to analytics as a tool, etc. But there's a lot of people that really believe that scouts. I'm just curious from your side what you were looking for when you're looking at kids and their development and who are like what are scouts really looking for in a player, and do they use analytics as a measure outside of just a little tool from your perspective? Because what we're hearing from everybody we talk to, I think the only one, Bob, so Dan Tenser, who does the director of scouting for the Saskatoon Blades, he's the only one that shared anything on analytics that he gets his guys to eliminate the bottom 1/3 of the teams out of the playoffs. He eliminates all their stats against any of those teams and then brings the numbers forward. This is the newest, most information, but most people talk about a lot of different things. What do you think, or what's your take on that?
So I like any numbers I can get my hands on. The first thing that I would want to know, having dealt with services like Instat that gather this data, is the data correct? Okay, because there's a lot of data that is incorrect. And so like puck battles, for example. I mean, who's recording the puck battle? Is it AI recording it? Is it some guy sitting in his underwear and an undershirt, okay, with Yeezys beside him, okay, who's marking it down on a clipboard the way we used to keep track of? So I think you got to take it with a grain of salt. Everything's not being recorded like it's in the National Hockey League. And the lower you go down, I would trust the analytics a lot less. But any numbers that I could get my hands on, I would want to get my hands on just to confirm for me what the eye test was.
Okay.
For me, the eye test was always everything. But I always used to say scouting was just a bunch of old men making educated guesses. And so the analytics kind of helps you make a more educated guess. But But for me, it's the eye test. For me, it was relationships with coaches. So they would honestly tell me who their top 3 hardest workers were, that they would kind of pull me aside away from the dressing room and say, yeah, I know this guy's rated in the first round, but for our relationship, you might want to stay clear of him. Like those coaches are the ones that spend so many hours with people. And if you can develop those relationships with those coaches, I think you're going to eliminate a lot of mistakes that you would make drafting people. But it's still guessing, right?
Yeah.
It's still
100%.
guessing.
No, for sure. It's pretty insightful to learn that. And I wonder if you're looking at both analytics and even technology moving forward now in terms of how things are monitored, how players are scouted. I wonder also, because you talked about how it worked, but what about the level of physicality versus hockey IQ? Because sometimes we see players, and I believe there's one right now. Is he a Russian, Evan? We talked about him a few times. That's like 6'7", 230 pounds. Like Carmen, like just a beast of a man. But like you still need that hockey IQ. You could be a Logan Stanley, you could be a Zdeno Chara, but do you have the hockey IQ? And is there a way that you can measure that through the eye test, or is that something else that you kind of assess that you're recognizing those puck battles?
Well, first of all, listen, there's a lot of guys making a lot of money who would be way better at eye than this. I find it interesting. Remember a couple of years ago, guys, when 5'11" defensemen were the flavor, like the guys who could skate, move the puck, get it out of their end, the whole bit. And then all of a sudden last year, the last couple of years, you watch the NHL draft, and if you're not 6'3", you're not getting drafted. And I'm guessing at the NHL level, it's because when they're playing for that big trophy, unless your skill level is like super elite, you better be a big, tough defenseman. And, the other thing, especially at the National Hockey League level, and it's supposed to be at levels below it. So you draft a player in the NHL. So it used to be this way in the 60s, 70s, 80s, probably even into the 90s. You draft a hockey player and you say, we'll see you at training camp, okay? And you don't know what that guy's doing through the course of the summer, right? Now, in the National Hockey League, there's no salary cap on player development. Okay, there is on players, there's not on coaching, there's not on video, there's not on analytics, there's not on development. And you take a look, like that would be a really good show to have somebody on here to tell you what everybody, like how many people they have in development and how are they working on that kid skating, okay? And you say, okay, well, I was drafted by Vegas and I live in Toronto. How's Vegas going to help me? Well, they're going to have somebody local in your Toronto area to help you. And then you know what, with analytics, they're going to video your stride to see, okay, how it's improved. Like the player development side of it is so important. And it's not just skills, right? It's nutrition, it's off ice. And when I talk about compete level, if the numbers are showing that you're improving in all of those areas, tells me that you got some compete, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
100%.
Well, and I find this interesting because the two players that really stand out when you talk about that development, even once they hit the pro, let's go back a few years. Leon Draisaitl, when he came in to play with Edmonton, he did not have that top end, like that explosive, like those quick twitch muscles like he does now. He's so much more powerful. And by his third year, he became like this strong skater. And then this last season, because I got like from 2-3 different sources out there talking about Bedard, they said, hey, and so we were talking like early on, he is looking good. Like, I mean, but it's the development, like you were saying, they're finding those pieces. And look how he came out. It's like he's a different player with even his speed and his stride and his strength and his legs this year.
Take a look at, like, for the most part, the greatest players in the game. You hear about Crosby. He has a weakness in his game. That's what he's going to spend that summer on, right? And now it's a strength. Okay, by the way, his weakness is like way up here, okay, compared to everybody else's, right? But I mean, you're always looking to get better. I saw a clip on Tom Brady, and he went to Michigan, and he wasn't the starter. And with the portal now, if the portal would have been there, he probably would have left. He didn't leave. He had to fight through it. He finally got to be the starter in his senior year, but there was Drew Henson there, who was like the All-American recruit. And all of a sudden, he's going to have the first game of the year. Brady's going to play the first half. Henson's going to play the second half. Then they're going to go with the hot hand. Like today, kids would just leave. Okay. He said, what I learned through all the adversity, through all the setbacks, was I just have to keep competing. I just have to find a way to get better. And he said it set me up for the rest of my life.
Wow.
It's easy to quit, right? Like, I mean, it's to find those warriors, those guys who will just fight through adversity. I mean, I think those are the guys who are going to help you win championships at any level. At a tier 3 junior hockey level, in the CHL and the USHL and the NCAA, they're going to help you win.
Awesome.
That's amazing. Go ahead. I was just going to ask, wrap up my final question is kind of, is there a memorable moment from your career in hockey, whether, even playing for fun or in this prospect pool, like, is there something that kind of stands out as a great memory that you'd love to share with us?
Yeah. I'll give you one. I mean, if you talk to NHL guys, if you hang around NHL guys, the stories that they tell, okay, are crazy. Here's a story. I was a pretty good hockey player when I was a kid. Okay. Back then, the OHL draft was a 16-year-old draft. I played on the Kitchener midget team. We won the OMHA championships. We went to the Ontario championship. I think it was the Air Canada Cup at that point in time that you would go to for the Nationals. And I was on the first line, and I was a point-a-game guy, and I was pretty good. I did not get drafted, but I got invited to the Kitchener Ranger camp. And I go to the Kitchener Ranger camp, and I'm a left shot center. My defenseman rushes the puck, and he turns it over at the offensive blue line. And now I'm backing him up, and this guy skates past me like I'm literally standing still, and he roofs it. And, his name was Paul Coffey.
Oh,
His name was Paul Coffey, but like on the ice at that camp was Al McGinnis and Brian Bellows and like nine other NHL guys. And I remember walking out. I'm a realist. I was walking out to the car with my dad with my bag over my shoulder. I wasn't disappointed. I knew where I fit in. And I said, Dad, I'm going to find my way in hockey. It's just I'm not going to play hockey to make money. And I stopped playing. I went to the Kitchener Ranger B team for 5 games. I wasn't having any fun. I stopped playing hockey. I started coaching. I really started focusing on my education. And I found a way to be in the game my entire life. But Paul Coffey ended my career, guys.
Before it even started.
Paul Coffey before it even started. But there's a million other stories. I'll give you one other one. Don Cherry. I was for a short period of time, I was the head scout and director of player personnel for the Mississauga Ice Dogs. And we're sitting in the middle of and I can't tell you any of the stories because they would not, even though we're on whatever we're on right now, you couldn't put them on the air. But we're just sitting around. Steve Ludzik's the coach. Mark Osborne's the assistant coach. And there's like 10 guys in a circle, and there's 2 cases of beer. And Don Cherry is just ripping off stories. Okay. And you just can't stop laughing. They're so good. So, and every the pro guys have a lot of stories, but those are just a couple of cute ones.
Man, Bob, it has been a pleasure and an honor to have you on. And what we'll be doing is on our website, we like to put up our guests and give a link to this as well as. So I looked for the link. I don't know, maybe something got mixed. I couldn't find the link in there. So if you can resend it to me, and then what we'll do is we'll put the link into that place and we'll put it up on our. So we're and just so you guys know, so we're on Facebook, we're on X or Twitter, as some of you guys call it. As well as up on YouTube and also on our actual website there, guys. And you can find us some places on Insta. So definitely. Hey, Bob, it has been a pleasure. It's been fun. Thank you for taking us through the journey here tonight. And definitely we'll keep following and we'll keep reporting. And definitely, maybe we'll have to have you back on when we hit the playoff season, and we'll talk a little bit more.
Maybe when the dust is settled,
Yeah,
like we'll go through another recruiting season here
and see what
between
happens
now and July, and we'll see what happens.
Let me finish with one last quick thought. I just want to do this quickly. I know we always say we should be two guys in overtime and add a little extra session and hit a live video feed because we always go a few minutes past our hour. But let me ask you this question, just to answer it in like within a minute if you could. Gavin McKenna made a decision, went to Penn State. I've heard that Guy Godowski plays more of an NHL system, is what I'm getting from a scout that's over in Europe. I don't know if that's true or not. Some people think it's hurt his game. Other people think it's going to better his game. Just nothing to do with NCAA, but because he's gone and he's doing a different system. Do you think overall, I don't care where he gets drafted, but do you think overall this will help his game, or do you think that it could have hindered his game?
So I don't know what Godowski's system is. I've watched him play college hockey. He's not, in my opinion, he's not he's a great player, but he's not Macklin Celebrini. He's not Sidney Crosby. Like, he's not a strong kid. But I do believe that it will, when all the dust settles, it will help him. What more did he have to prove against a bunch of kids in the CHL? And I'm not knocking the CHL. The CHL is great, but why go back there? Like, I mean, what does he have to prove? How can he get up for games in the CHL? It's bigger, stronger, and faster there. He's got 24 points in 20 games against men. Let's put that in perspective. Did he not lead the World Junior in scoring? If not, he was right up at the top. Okay.
Away from Hague, yeah.
Okay, so like if he maybe the buildup is just too high, right? Let this kid, he's the one thing he's able to do in Penn State. He's able to lift a lot more weights, physically get his body ready, where he wouldn't be able to do that with all the games in the WHL. He'll be just fine. But you know what? There's guys who get drafted first overall that it doesn't just work out for them the way they thought. And there's guys who get drafted in the 7th round who nobody thought anything of them, and it works out just fine. Well, he'll be fine.
That's awesome. Thanks so much, Bob.
I think you made the right choice.
Awesome. Thank you, Bob.
Thanks, guys. Have a great night.
Have a great night.
Guest headliner, brought to you by JR Web Design. Is your website stuck in the Stone Age? Well, you need JR Web Designs. They'll craft you a website that's as awesome as our show. Mic drop.
That was an awesome interview. Thank you so much, Bob, for coming on the show and sharing your insight. And thank you all for tuning in. Alexander St. Onge, welcome to the show. We are talking to Bob. We've had some great questions and feedback. So thank you again, Bob. And we didn't even need a hockey history, Evan, because he dropped some pretty good history there.
We got some good history there, man.
That was a pretty cool story, right? So appreciate it. So any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Oh, man, I have so much, but I kind of feel like I just want to leave it to sit there and just soothe and think about him ending his career ended by Brian Bellows, Al McInnes, and especially Paul Coffey. Before it started, they ended it, and then he found another way to make a living in hockey. What a story, man.
Well, speaking of hockey stories, you can find many hockey stories every Wednesday night with us at 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time here. We go live. We are on Facebook, on YouTube. Go give us a follow and subscribe. We are on X/Twitter at Revenev or myself at hockey_2. And we are on Instagram. Go give us a follow. We appreciate it. We got articles. We're going to get Bob up on our website in the next day or so. So go check it out. And if you missed the episode, go back and rewatch it. It's a great episode. Some great insight about NHL prospects, history of hockey, the prospects tournament, and the CHL versus the NCAA. Thank you to our partners again for supporting us. And if you want to get involved, feel free to reach out at 2guys@hockeytalk@gmail.com. All right, Evan, that's the end of another great show. We will be back again next Wednesday. Any final thoughts, or are we done?
We're done, man. We're done. Guys, it's been a ring-a-ding-dong-dandy. And in the famous words of Ed Whalen, in the meantime and in between time.
Keep your sticks on the ice. Stay safe. Have a good night, everyone.